as we have already SDTM datasets according to the FDA standards, why do we need again ADAM datasets? Because ADAM datasets have different variables. In ADAM datasets, you can create different flags, you can derive different flags, you also can do some calculations like mean, and you can save in ADAM datasets.
Sir, I can't see the screen.
Yeah, I'm not sharing yet anything.
Sir,
So,
sir, I have a question in A.
who is that?
Bipa.
Yeah, go ahead, Vibha.
That A page, like other day we did, there was when
So this is the Atom implementation guide. Current version for Atom is 2.0.
I can't see the screen.
Everyone can see my screen? Any one of you can see my screen?
Yes.
And Anjali, try to log off and log in again. Others were able to see it. I was sharing.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the implementation guide for Atom. This is Atom implementation guide version 1. Here we'll be learning about two structures of Atom. Like SDTM, we don't have multiple structures or we don't have multiple structures for Atom. We only have two structures. One is analysis dataset level structure and the other is BDS, basic data structure. We only have two structures. So as we have seen in SDTM, we have three types of variables, right? What are the three types of variables in SDTM? Required, expected,
permissible
and
and
expected.
permissible.
Expected. But in Atom, we have required, conditionally required, and permissible. What are required variables? These variables must be included in the data set. It is same like SDTM condition, conditionally required. These are something like expected ones. The variable must be included in the dataset in certain circumstances. Permissible. The variable may be included in the dataset, but it is not required. So we have three different type of variables and two different structures. And normally the flag variables will have suffix called FL. If it is an date and time variables, they will be having like DTM or DT. If it is a date, it will be having suffix as DT. If it is a date and time, it will be having DTM. And if it is complete date format, it will be having DTM, SDTM, date formats. See here, DT, DTM, and TM. This is for time, this is date time, and this is for date variables. Here, the dates will be represented in numeric format. As we have seen in SDTM, the dates are represented in characteric format like IS8601 date format. Here we won't follow IS8601 date format, but the date format here is numeric date format. So we have two structures called the first one is called ADSL and the second one is called BDS. The second one is called basic data structure. So we have only two structures called ADSL and BDS. ADSL structure is used to create analysis dataset called ADSL, and BDS structure is used to create any other datasets. Like if you want to create EG dataset for analysis level, the dataset name will be ADEG. If you want to create vital signs, it will be ADVS. If you want to create LB, it will be ADLB. If it is AE, it will be ADAE. All other datasets except ADSL dataset will follow BDS structure. So how many type of structures we have? One is ADSL, the other one is BDS. First we'll be going through ADSL structure and today we'll be creating ADSL dataset. ADSL is also an subject level dataset. What is a subject level dataset? Any one of you? What is a subject level data set? We have one data set, subject level data set in SDTM also. What was that subject level data set in SDTM?
All information related to the patient.
Yeah, what was the data set, subject level data set in SDTM?
Subject ID
No, I'm asking about the name of the data set.
or data set.
It contains only one record. Yes, yes, Monica, DM.
DM.
Yeah.
Oh,
So similarly, ADSL will also have only one record per one subject. So how many subjects are there in our study? 24. So how many records will be having for ADSL? 24. ADSL contains the information of demographics dataset, and it also contains more information of dates calculated in numeric format. Why do we convert the dates into numeric format? Because for our TLS, if you need to do any calculations or if you need to report the data, you are not reporting the data in IS 8601 date format. You are reporting the data in date 9 format or numeric format. Previously, yesterday in last class, we have seen the AE listing, right? How did we represent the date 12 Jan 2015? We are using the date 9 format. You can create that also as a numeric format, so which is useful for us in doing calculations or something. So analysis dataset contain all date formats in numeric version. If you see here, see treatment start date, which is numeric format, treatment start time numeric format, treatment start date and time is also numeric format. So first will be, and then in ADSL the variables are categorized into different groups. These are called subject identifiers, nothing but study ID, use subject ID, site ID. If you want to derive any flags, like if there are multiple sites that if study is done, then they will also derive flags, or they will group the flags. They will group the subjects into in which site they are done. According to our study, we don't have any flags, so we don't need to worry about these two variables. After subject identifiers, we'll be having subject demographics, which are coming from my demographics dataset. So what variables do we have? Age, age units, sex, race, and race group. Here our study contains, if you are working on an ISS or IS integration studies, you will be pooling the studies, you will be integrating multiple data. I mean, we are currently working on only one study, right? After completing all the studies, if they are working on similar drug, they'll pool the studies, and they will also create flags for these race groups. Then we, as our studies and single study now, we don't need to worry about these two variables here. And we'll create population flags. We'll learn couple of population flags today. If what is randomization? If study has been divided into, let's say our study has 24 patients, right? So they have divided patients into two different groups based on their inclusion and exclusion criteria. They divide the patients into two different groups, and each group is assigned with different drug. Some of the patients are given first with test, and some of the patients are given with reference first. So they have divided into the population for our study into two different groups, and that division of the total number of patients to give the study drug, such things are called randomization. So subjects are randomized to give specific drug. Let's say I have 1 to 24 patients. Out of that, they have divided 12 for each group. So this division and allotment of drug to each group of patients is called randomization. Sometimes randomization is not done for some of the subjects. So such subjects will have randomization flag. No. If subjects are randomized, they will have randomization flag. Yes. So that is this one, randomization flag. What are safety flags? If subject has received at least one dose of drug, those subjects come under safety population flag. Then safety population flag will be yes, otherwise it will be no. Full analysis flag and intensive to time treatment flag per protocol flag. If you go to SAP, all the derivations for the flags will be given in the SAP system analysis plan, statistical analysis plan. Sorry. Might be all these flags not required for our study. We might need only safety flag, randomization flag, and we might need some more flags also, but it's not mandatory or required to create all of these flags for all the analysis data sets because
Say safety flags again.
hello,
Hello.
yeah, go ahead with Vidish.
Sir, can you explain safety flags again? I didn't got it.
Yeah, I'll show you in SAP. See, here they have given definition. The safety population will include all the subjects who are administered with at least one dose of doxycycline. So in SAP, they will be giving definitions will be given for how to derive each flag. So what did they say here? Subjects who were administered with at least one dose of doxycycline, right? So if I go to my exposure data set, patient number 1 has been assigned with doxycycline. Patient number 2 has been assigned with doxycycline. If you see like that, all 24 patients has been assigned with at least one dose of doxycycline, right? So all the subjects in our study are safety population, subjects with safety population. So flag for these subjects will be Y. Each of the subject has received at least one dose of doxycycline, right? Why we are creating this flag? Because sometimes there will be screen failures. What are screen failures? Patient will be coming for the initial screening test and he will be randomized. So let's say we have 24 patients in our study. All the patients will be coming for screening. So when they come to screening, they will randomize the subjects into 12 and 12 for giving. As our study is a two-way crossover study, patients will be divided into two groups. So this is called as an randomization. So all the subjects will have randomization flag. Yes, right? Randomization flag will be yes for all 24 of the subjects. But after randomization, might be due to some inclusion or exclusion criteria the patient is not meeting, or whatever might be the reason, after seeing the screening reports of the patient, because it's screening also, labs, vital signs, all the results are taken, right? And all the information is collected from the patient. So if patient is not meeting any of our study criteria, patient will be excluded from the study. So let's say two of the patients are not meeting my study criteria. So then how many patients will I have? 22. So all the 24 patients will be having randomization flag, yes. But when it comes to safety flag will be present only yes for 22 subjects, because all the subjects are randomized, but all the subjects haven't received the drug because two patients has not met my inclusion criteria. So, but here in our study, all the patients are meeting, all the 24 patients are meeting my inclusion criteria. So all the 24 patients will be having flag Y. So I will show you
But
how. Yeah.
but as you said that it will done the randomization when will done after screening, right?
Yeah, randomization and screening are done at the same time. On the date for randomization will be screening date, most of the cases.
S- Uh, s- okay, sir.
Yeah, but after the results, they will conclude to include or not. When the patient arrived on the first day itself, they will randomize the patients into two different groups. Okay, you go to this block, you go to this block, you will be assigned with so and so drug, and these patients will be assigned with so and so drug. Then only the screening will be done. So this is how they derive the flags, and all the derivations that we need for the flags, the definitions will be given in SAP. We have to find those definitions where we have in SAP. So after deriving the flag variables, then we'll be going for my treatment variables. We'll go to our DM again. We have created all these variables, right? Study ID, domain, subject ID, reference start date, end date, informed consent date, RFPN, DTC, death date, site, birth date, age unit, sex, race, but I haven't showed you these variables. I haven't showed you these variables, right? These are called ARM code. This is how the randomization is done. Let me hide some of the variables. So here if you see how half of the patients are first given reference, right? So if you see subject number 1, subject number 3, subject number 5, all the odd number subjects has been assigned with reference and test, and all the even numbers has been assigned with test and reference. So on the first day, that means what is my first day? Because test and reference are only given on day 13 and day 18, right? When it comes to subject 1, what is given on day 13? Reference. And what is given on day 18? Test. So on day 13 he is given with reference, and on day 18 he is given with test. How about patient 2? Patient 2 is given test on day 13 and is given on reference on day 18. Similarly, all the odd subjects like 1, 3, 5, 7 have same situation. Even for all the even subjects 2, 4, 6. So this is how these are the randomized subjects. So all the subjects has been randomized and all of them has been planned to give this drug. This is called arm and arm code. What is arm and arm code in my implementation guide? What does arm and arm code explains about my implementation guide? See, it is a planned arm. And what is arm code? Planned arm code. That's the label for arm and arm code. So these are the actual planned ones. So before the patient come to the clinic, these are actually planned. But what was given? Actual arm and actual arm code. If you go to the label part for that, actual arm code and description of actual arm. Code of actual arm. When an arm is not planned, it will be unplanned. Okay, don't worry about this C disk notes. I will explain it. Okay, here for the first patient, they have planned for reference and test. Okay, they have given reference and test. For the second patient, they have planned test and reference. They have given the same. So on till patient number 10, right? Until patient number 10, both arm and actual arm are same because what was planned was what was given, right? But when it comes to actual arm code, why it was unplanned or unplanned treatment, these subjects are withdrawn subjects, right? These two subjects has been withdrawn from our study or has some malfunctions, like the subjects has protocol deviation and subject number 22 has withdrew consent. So they haven't completed the study. They haven't taken test or reference for our study drug. So they has been called as unplanned. How did we assign this value unplanned or unplanned treatment? If you go to implementation guide, there they explains when an arm is not planned, it will be unplanned. So what will be my arm code? Actual arm code, it will be unplanned. If I go to my actual arm column, when it is not in trial, that is unplanned treatment. Those are the values assigned, right? Unplanned and unplanned treatment. So we will use this actual arm and actual arm code for deriving my treatment variables in analysis dataset. I'll be using arm and arm code for creating these variables. So how many periods we have here? If I go to my DM, we'll consider these as 2 periods because our study is planned for 2 drugs, right? So this will be called as period number 1 and this day 18 will be my period number 2. What was given on my period number 1 for subject 1? Reference. What was given on my period 1 for subject number 2? Test. Similarly, if that was also explained in the protocol. If I go to my protocol, see day 13 and day 18. So this is the randomization plan, actual plan before they randomize the patients. What did they plan? They plan to give test and reference on day 13 and day 18. They considered day 13 as period 1 and day 18 as period 2. And here we have 2 sequences, test and reference and test. So half of the patient has been assigned with sequence number 1, half of the patients has been assigned with sequence number 2.
Sir, how do we decide this day 13 and 18?
That's what medical writers decide that. We are not someone to decide that. Who has designed this protocol, they will decide that.
So, like period 1 is till day 13? No.
Yeah, period 1 is day 13, but all other days doxycycline was given, right? Day 1 to 18, doxycycline was given, and on day 13 and 18, or test and reference was given.
So, again, what is test and reference? Test is the medicine and reference is just
Placebo.
placebo.
Yeah, sugar
Okay.
coated tablet. Test is sildenafil.
Ednafil.
Yeah. So out of these two, what is my period 1? Period 1 is reference. Period 2 is test. That's what we create in Adam dataset. TRT01P will be my test for subject number 1 or reference, whatever it is. And we'll also assign numeric format for that. This is the planned one. For planned, we'll use arm. For TRT01A, we'll use actual arm. And we'll also create numeric variables. This is how we create the treatment variables in Adam dataset. You'll get more picture when we are working on the dataset. And we'll also derive dates. For these deriving dates, we'll be using RFSTDTC and RF. For a first exposure date treatment, we'll be using RFSTDTC. So on for end date, we'll be using RFENDTC, RFXENDTC. We'll be using all date variables to derive these variables. So that's all with ADSL structure. And once we complete the ADSL dataset, then we'll be going for BDS structure and how to create BDSL variables. So before going into ADSL structure, we'll once again look with our DM. So we have all our variables, and what else extra variables we have here? We have arm code, actual arm code. So this was the actually planned treatment for these subjects, and these were the treatments that were assigned. Why we have here unplanned treatment? Because those subjects has been withdrawn from our study, so we'll make it as an unplanned.
Sir, why are we writing 2 and 1, 2 and 1 just to...
Yeah, because this is sequence number 1. If I go to protocol, what is my sequence number 1? Test and reference, right?
Okay.
So here test is given first, reference is given second, so it is first sequence.
Okay.
There is rule for ARM code again. If you go in detail with ARM code, it can have 20 characters, the maximum length and how it should be created. If you go to end, they'll show some examples. If I go to below this one, they'll show examples how to create my ARM code. How to do it for one-way crossover study, how to do it for two-way crossover study. They'll have rules here again. You can, depending on your study, you can go here and create your ARM and ARM code. Yeah, that's all. These are just my sequence numbers. Okay, now we'll be working on ADSL. First, I'm assigning for test 1 and reference 2. I'm bringing my SDTM DM dataset. When I bring my SDTM dataset, I already had all these variables. Let me close some of these. So when I bring in my SDTM dataset, DM, I have all these variables: study ID, user subject ID, site ID. So I have all my study identifiers, and I have my all subject demographic variables also. Now I need to create my population indicators, treatment variables, and date and time variables. These date and time variables. So here I'm also calling macro called DTC on the display.sas. I'll say you what this macro does. What this macro does is it takes the IS8601 date format. It takes this date format and it converts this date format into separate. It breaks date and time. So it creates date as RFSTDT and time as RFSTDTC. Let me run it till here and show you what it does. So what date we are taking in the first line? RFST DTC, and we are creating separate date RFST DT and time as start time STMC. It has converted my date and time into date 9 dot format. I have separated the date and time. Similarly for RFE and DTC also I have applied the same macro. If I go here, I have also used my RF, E and DTC. For my RF, E and DTC, I don't have my time part, right? I don't have my time part, so only I got date part here. I don't have any time part. So how am I creating my safety flag? If RFSTDT not equals to missing. What is reference start date? What is the definition for reference start date? Any one of you? What is
The day of giving
The first dose.
so
the first.
yeah, it is the first dose of my study drug. So if I am
Yes, sir.
having date here, what does it indicate? That patient is taking at least one dose of drug, right?
Yeah.
So if I have date missing here, that means patient has not taken any drug. So that is how I'm creating my safety flag. If RFSTDTC not equals to missing, then safety flag is equal to Y. What is the definition for safety flag? If at least patient took one dose of drug, right?
Yes.
So that is how I'm creating my safety flag. Otherwise, my safety flag is no. So here for treatment sequence planned, I am using my ARM. ARM is nothing but planned treatment, right? So here in ADAM implementation guide, I have a variable called TRT-SCQP, planned sequence of treatment. So it is nothing but ARM. I also had one more variable called TRT-SCQA somewhere. Yeah, here. Actual sequence of treatments. That will be my actual ARM code. Sorry, actual ARM. So I'm using both of these variables and just renaming them. I'm creating two more variables called TRT-SCQP and SCQA. In the second step, what am I doing? I'm taking my ARM and I'm using scan function. What does scan function do here? I'm applying scan function to my variable called ARM. I'm using scan of 1. What does it do? It does by each word, yes. So what does 1 do? It takes the first word
First part.
before the delimiter,
That.
this one. So I have variables called TRT O1P and O2P. For subject number 1, my treatment O1 planned. What is my treatment O1 planned? Reference, right? What is my treatment O2 planned? Test. If I go to ADAM implementation guide, I also have variables called, here it is only to study treatment. So in next place we'll be keeping 01p, and if it is second treatment or second period we'll be keeping 02p. If it is a 3-period study, we'll also be having TRT 03p. So we need to create, XX indicates we need to create multiple variables as per number of study treatments in our study. So here we have two treatment variables, TRT01P and O2P, because we have two treatments for each observation. Here we have two treatments, right? Reference and test. So this will be my O1P, this will be my O2P. So first, how am I selecting? I'm using 1 to select the first part and -1 to select the last part. So I'm selecting my two treatments. And we also need to create numeric version for this. TRT01P is the character version, and TRT01PN, it is numeric version. Test will be 1 and reference will be 2. Test is 1 and reference is 2. I have assigned as a format, and I have applied that format to these variables and created two new variables called O1PN and O2PN and applied the format sequence. Sequence format is created here. And now I am creating O1A and O2A. We have created TRT O1P, O2P, O1PN, O2PN. Now we need to create O1A, O2A and O1AN, O2AN. What variables I will use here? Actual arm and actual arm curve. So similarly, I'm applying same condition to select. So I'm using these two variables now. Previously, I'm using the first two variables at arm and arm code to create my plant treatments. Now I am using these variables to create my actual treatments. But I have here two subjects with different scenarios. So first of all, I need to ignore these subjects. I need to ignore both of these records and apply only TRT O1A and O2A for rest of my 22 subjects, right? So for that, if actual arm not equal to unplanned treatment, for only those records, do same condition like here. And we'll also apply the sequence formula here also. Here also we are applying formatting.
Sir, I'm not understanding the PN and AN. Oh, I'm not understanding what it is used for.
So how many treatments do we have here? Two, right?
Yes.
Out of these two treatments, which is my first treatment, which is my period number 1 reference. So this will be my period number 1. If I go to my protocol, same thing, right? For sequence 1, this will be my period 1, this will be my period 2. So I'm breaking into two separate variables, this one. Let me run this piece of code and show you. See, now if I see here it is reference and test. How did we create O1P and O2P?
With first.
Yeah, I used the first part to create my O1P and second part to create my O2P. See, I have used my first part reference and second part test. What is O1A and O2A? Now I am using these both variables. Instead of using the other two, I am using these ones. My first one will be reference and test, and second one will be test and reference. So reference and test, test and reference. I'm breaking into two separate variables. Here I have missing because these are unplanned treatments. Subject number 11 and 22 are unplanned treatments. For these variables, I'm also creating numeric part. If it is test, I'm assigning 1. If it is reference, I'm assigning 2. See, O1PN, O2PN. For reference to, for test 1. For test 1, reference to. Similarly, I have O1AN, O2AN, 2, 1, 1, 2. Here it is missing because these are unplanned treatments.
Okay, so basically A is for after screening, the final
Now, what was actually given? P indicates what was planned, A indicates what was given.
okay.
Yeah.
So we can name anything. We have to write PN and AN, or we can write anything.
No, we need to write only PN and AN because that's how it is given in the implementation guide, right? See, XX indicates the period number. If it is first period, it should be 01. If it is second period, it should be 02. Here they indicated, right? 1-to-1 map. It should be 1-to-1 map for our study treatments. Subject level identifier that represents the planned treatment for period. XX indicates what period it belongs to.
Okay, sir.
So now I'm deriving more flags. So how do you know if subject is enrolled in the study or not? Do we have an enrollment flag here? Yeah, we have an enrollment flag here. How do we know if subject has been enrolled in the study? If subject has signed the informed consent, that means subject is enrolled in the study, right?
Yeah.
So here we are saying we are taking the information from DS dataset. If DS term is informed consent, then enrollment flag is equal to Y. What is hemodynamic flag? Well, that is also given in the SAP.
So, sir, who writes the statistical analysis plan?
Statistician.
For every drug, they write their own.
No, SAP contains all the information of protocol. Apart from that, it contains how to create the tables. It contains the mock shells. See, here we have what is safety flag, what is hemodynamic flag, or what are the sequences that are given, what is treatment emergent adverse event, what is hemodynamic population flag, subjects who
Complete this.
completed the study. So if I go to my disposition dataset, I have DS term called completed, right? So I will use that information to create my hemodynamic flag Y. If DS term is not equal to completed, then it is no. I'll show you the dataset. Here it is completed for subject number 1. Here it is completed for subject number 2. For subject number 3, it is completed. So on, if I go to my subject number 11, the third record should be the completed information, right? But here it says something positive urine screening at drug 12, protocol deviation. See, this subject has not completed the study. So flag will be no for this subject. Similarly, for subject number 22, withdrew consent. This patient also doesn't have, if I select patient number 22, I don't have completed information. But if you see all other patients, they have information for completed. Each of the subject has three records. One will be when the patient has signed the informed consent. Second will be when the patient has been randomized. And third will be when the patient has completed the study. But here we don't have that information. So that is how we create the hemodynamic flag. What is hemodynamic flag? Patients who has completed the study. This is not an flag for ADSL dataset according to ADAM implementation guide, but still we can create that flag because our SAP says that we need that flag, right? Our SAP says we need hemodynamic population flag because we are only doing the analysis for subjects who completed the study. So we are creating that flag here. So I'm also taking randomization information from DS dataset to create my randomization flag. If it says subject is randomized, then my flag will be Y. All the subjects are randomized. Even if you see subject number 22, he is also randomized. But he has not completed the study. He has randomized, he has signed the informed consent, but he withdrew consent without completing. So we will also derive randomization flag here. So randomization date will be the date assigned to the randomized part. So randomization date is nothing but if I go to the end of the data set, this will be my randomization date when the patient has been randomized. This is the date when he has signed the informed consent, and this is the date when he signed the, when he has been randomized. So now if I run this part.
So randomized means when they plan
When they divide
starting
the
the drug.
patients to groups to decide which patient to give what drug.
So from after that they'll give the drug, right? From
Yes.
that date
Yeah.
or after that date. Okay.
See, now I have flag for enrollment, I have flag for hemodynamic, I have flag for this one. I have three different records. I mean, for one subject, I have three different records. Now I can use multiple merge to take it off. So here I can take this record first, and I'm saying take only enrollment flag is equal to Y. So then I'll have this record, but this information will be same, right? I'm changing the date name. I'm renaming here again. Keep where enrollment flag is equal to Y. I'm merging same dataset three times. I'm only taking merge DS. Here also I'm taking merge DS. Here also I'm taking merge DS1. I'm taking same dataset, but I'm dropping the variables, other variables. Now if I run this, because we need only one record per subject, right? We were not supposed to keep three records like this. Or you can write three separate such statements and you can merge again. Either you can do that way also.
Sir, I didn't get that part. What are we doing?
Yeah, just we are merging the data set
Yeah, same data set with
three times.
different conditions.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. So we are just taking wherever the data is. If it's missing, we are not.
not taking, yes.
Okay.
And we also collected randomization date. This is nothing but my dispersion date. This is my randomization date. Now I am taking my exposure dataset for my treatments. I'm taking exposure dataset for my treatments. I'm only taking these two treatments for each subject. This is subject number 1. I'm taking my treatment placebo and sildenafil because this is my period 1 and period 2, which is nothing but placebo and sildenafil, which is nothing but reference and test. Placebo given is 0 grams and sildenafil given was 100 grams. And for the subject number 1, reference was given in the first place, that is on day 13, and test is given on the second place, which is day 18. So I'm only selecting placebo and sildenafil treatments. Okay. Period 1, period 2, subject 1, subject 2, subject 3. Now I'm transposing my dataset. Why am I transposing? I'll show you.
So this exposure data set is for when we started giving the drug, right?
Yes,
When they are
exposure dataset contains all the information on what date, what treatment was given, and what amount of dose given, what was the route given, and what date and time it was given. It contains all the information about the drug.
What was the route? What is route?
See, like route, it was an oral medicine.
Oh,
Is it an oral or injection or tablet? What kind of
okay,
medicine it was?
okay, okay,
What is the dose form? Tablet. What was the route? Oral.
okay.
So now I got period 1 dates and period 2 dates. How I got my period 1 and period 2 dates? I'm selecting first these two records and I am transposing my dataset using these two as my IDs. Period 1 and period 2 will be my IDs, and the dates for this, for subject number 1, what was my period 1 date? 9:30, 6:30, and what was my period 2 date? 10:05. So 9:30 and 10:05. So this will be my day 13 for subject number 1, right? That is nothing but my TRT 01 start date. This will be my TRT 02 start date. So now I am getting TRT 01 start date and TRT 02 start date.
So what is TRT?
Treatment.
Treatment stuff. Okay.
Because now I want to derive these variables. I want to derive treatment start date, start time, start date and time. And I also want to derive treatment end date, end time, end date and time. If I have different treatments, I also need to derive TRT O1 STM, O1 SDTM. For end times also I need to derive O1 EDT and ETM end time.
So what is TRT STTM?
Start date and time.
Okay.
So I need to derive all date and time variables for each period and each treatment.
Okay.
So for that I'm bringing the information from there. Now I'm merging all my data sets here, which are created above, sorting them, and merging them. I got an initial ADSL which contains all the information. I got my treatment variables, I got my study identifiers, and I also got all the demographics information. And I also got my treatment numeric variables, and I also got my flags that are required. Now we need to derive O1 SDT and O1 SDTM variables by using this date and time, and you can also use reference start date and times for those.
So what is OSDTM?
That's what OSDTM, O1 SDTM is nothing but first treatment start date and time. So there will be date for this one, right? Which is nothing but day 13. This will be day 18.
For
Again,
the second
yeah,
one is
day 18. Here test is given on day 13 and reference is given on day 18. Here reference is given on day 13 and day 18. We need dates for these treatments also.
yeah.
So
So the medicine is just given one day 13.
no, on yeah, for this patient, it's only given on day 13.
Okay, and the placebo is given on day
The
18, and the rest of days just nothing like
doxycycline is
treatment.
given.
Okay, so Adnafil is just given one day.
Yeah, because we are giving doxycycline from day 1 to day 18, right? On day
Okay,
1, 2, 3, 4, every day doxycycline is given. What is
okay,
doxycycline? It is nothing but BP drug.
BP drug. Okay,
So we are testing our udinafil with the effect of doxycycline. If patient
okay.
using doxycycline is taking udinafil, what is the does he has any side effects or not? Because this
Okay.
is our study drug. Udinafil is our
Yes.
study drug. So
Mm-hmm.
we are testing drug interaction. So we
Okay.
are
With
giving on day 13 and we are taking all the adverse events of patients. On day 18 we are only giving placebo and we are taking again events. If we got any adverse events on day 13 and we are getting the same one on day 18, that means those are not coming because of our study
drug.
drug. Because on day 18 placebo was given, why he is getting adverse events? Might be some other reason. So if we are getting adverse events on day 13 and we are not getting on day 18, that means it is because of our study drug. That's why we are giving one test and one reference.
Okay.
Yeah. We are testing our study drug with an just sugar coated tablet.
But why do we require the sugar-coated tablet on day 18? It's nothing, right?
Nothing.
Which
That's what we are testing for. On day
no.
13, we are giving our study drug, and if adverse event occurred on day 13, and when sugar coated tablet is given and there was no adverse events, because this is a blinded study, we don't know until end of the study what was given on day 13 and
Oh,
on day 18. So
okay, okay,
we are just giving two samples to the patient. The study treatments only will be known after completing the study.
okay, okay.
So this is
So we
called
are,
as blinding and unblinding.
yeah, we are fooling the patient that okay, we are giving the
Two
drug,
study
then we
drugs.
want,
Yeah,
yes,
we are fooling the
yeah,
patient and sometimes even the doctor also.
okay,
Because
okay,
only sponsor, if it is a double-blinded study, only the sponsor will be knowing what was what. And this information the
okay,
sponsor will be having, and sponsor will be merging this information. That's why I haven't shown this information initially, because at that time study was blinded means we don't know the exact information of the drug what was given. After completing the entire study, then only the drug information is given. Before submitting to the FDA, we will just merge this data and submit to the FDA. The data will be not passed to all the programmers. Only it will be provided to senior statisticians or medical reviewers. They will have this data, they'll merge this data and they will send it to FDA. If everyone knows what was study drug, what was the other drug, and they will be knowing is that drug going to be success or not, right? So such information was not passed to everyone. So now we created all these variables. We have more code. We'll continue in Saturday's class. I think it's already 10 o'clock. We have more treatment variables. We'll complete that on Saturday's class. Did everyone have Adam implementation guide? Did I send? I'll send it to you today anyway. Adam implementation guide. And I will send you the code next week after completing the entire code.
Can you send the code right now so that we can see that it's really very confusing?
I can send the entire code if you want, but you can only review the code till here. And what I will be doing is I will also be sending all these SDTM datasets. We have created only DM and AE, right?
yeah,
So if you want, you can open implementation guide and create other datasets like we have here. You can take these datasets as my source datasets, and you can see these datasets and implementation guide and follow implementation guide to create these datasets. But anyway, you need all datasets to create ADSL datasets. So I'll be sending all these datasets and this code and Adam implementation guide.
Sir, if you send whatever you did just now, if you show us, if you send us with this half, then it could be advanced. Maybe we could. It will be helpful for us
No,
to
I'm sending
understand.
the entire code. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.